Hey everybody, it's Michael from ReplicaAirguns.com, and I've got a video that I'm going to entitle "Is Putting a Red/Orange Tip on an Airgun a Good or Bad Idea?" And I've kind of been wanting to make this video for a while because it does come up in conversation. Oftentimes I'll make a video and I'll mention something about the red tip or the orange tip, and sometimes I'll mention different rules and laws and wherever it happens to be, Canada, US. And then someone will pipe up and they'll say, oh, why didn't that gun have an orange tip or red tip? Or someone will say, why should we put orange or red tips on? Everybody has different ideas on this subject. And so I'm not, going to say, is it good or bad? I'm just going to give you my opinion on my take on the matter and what I think about these red/orange tips. Are they good or bad? Maybe in some ways they're good, in some ways they're bad. So let's go over some of these points. So now the purpose of putting an orange tip, right? So I'd say it's orange. Some people say red. It really depends on how the camera picks it up, but they can be kind of orangey or reddish, or like bright orange like this one, right? It's on the front of the barrel, usually the barrel tip. Some guns will actually have a whole orange or different colored slide. Like the whole gun can sometimes be a different color, depends on where you are. Certain laws make it so that the gun has to be fully colored, right? But here in the US / kind of Canada, typically we see these tips or the muzzle flash hiders or those types of things have to have some sort of orange tip. And the reason I believe that people do this is to indicate that it's not a real gun, okay? So that's the idea here, is if you see an orange tip, then you're letting people know that this isn't a real gun, okay? So, okay, we can relax. It's not real. Everyone calm down. It's not a real gun, right? So this little guy here, this little strip, is telling everybody around you that it's not real, okay? And some people even say it's a toy, okay? So there's a couple things I have an issue with here. So the fact that it's got this orange tip, everybody calms down. Everybody's not taking the gun seriously. They're thinking it's a toy maybe, perhaps, right? It's not going to hurt anybody. Whereas the truth of the matter, here in Canada, we're not allowed to import any airsoft pistols unless they can literally cause serious injury. So anything that is below a certain feet per second threshold that can't cause serious injury, it has to be like a clear plasticky gun. It can't look anything like a real gun because then it's perceived as a replica. And here in Canada's replica guns, so guns that aren't considered a real gun or can't cause serious injury, are considered replica guns. As soon as it is able to cause a serious injury, here in Canada then it becomes what we consider a real gun, or basically be an uncontrolled firearm. Okay, it's considered a firearm. In the States, it's a little bit different. I don't believe those guns are considered firearms. They're still considered airsoft, but in the States, you're going to find a lot of these red tips on the guns. In Canada, we don't have to have them on any gun because they're considered firearms. Firearms don't have to have red tips. But we still get them here in Canada because we import a lot of the guns from the US, from places like Cybergun and different companies, ASG, that they distribute through the US and then come into Canada. So we see them quite often. Even in the States, I don't believe you have to keep the orange tip on. It's just mainly for sale. So when they're selling the gun, the company that sells the gun will have to sell it with the orange tip. Now, what you do afterwards is up to you. And I don't know about all the states, but most states, I believe you can take the tips off if you want to. Okay, so now we know why the orange tips are on there. And now we know why, what I'm thinking in terms of the gun not being considered to be a real gun. But, in Canada, again, because they can cause serious injury, I feel that, showing this orange tip, making people feel like it's not a serious gun, is a bit misleading, because you could shoot yourself up close in the eye and you could lose an eye easily. So it's not a toy. You don't give this to a 5-year-old and say, go play with it, right? Especially if it's fully loaded, because they could shoot themselves or somebody else in the eye or who knows what, or just about anywhere, and it's going to hurt a lot, or it could actually cause them serious injury, even death, if it was close enough and went into the brain with a heavy enough grain airsoft BB. You never know, right? So there's always that possibility. So there again, point number one, is putting an orange tip on an airsoft gun misleading in that the gun is now perceived as not being dangerous? okay? That's point number one. I'm not really a fan of that, okay? I think an air gun should be treated in many ways just like a real gun. You don't point it at anybody. Obviously, airsoft guns are meant to be pointed at people, but when they have proper eye protection on and proper clothing, it's a different scenario, and at ranges that aren't going to totally do a lot of damage. But you know, you don't point these things just at anybody, anytime. It's, you know, use it like a real gun, okay? So point number one. Point number two, okay. So one time I'm going to bring this up. I made a video and a police officer got on board the comments section and said, you know, why doesn't that gun have an orange tip, right? It should have an orange tip. Otherwise, people are going to think it's a real gun. And so I said, okay. I said, so if someone pointed this gun, if it did have an orange tip, at you, right? If someone was brandishing it, let's say in a playground or something, and they were using it in a way that you thought was dangerous, and they pointed it at you, would you hesitate? Would you go, oh, hold on a second, I see an orange tip. He's just an airsoft gun, right? So I'm not going to worry about it. We're all going to get disarmed, you know, pardon the pun. And nobody's, you know, let's just calm down. And then, now here's the thing, right? So if I'm a sneaky criminal and I want to kind of throw somebody off, I'll just take my real gun and I'll paint the tip orange, right? So don't get any ideas. I'll just paint the tip orange. And that way everyone's going to be, oh, it's an airsoft gun. So if I'm wanting to do something bad or something I shouldn't be doing, I can carry around my real gun with the orange tip or whatever it is, because no one's going to think it's a real gun. And if the cops come, I can point at them, get off about 10 rounds into them before they even know what happened, okay? So I think it's almost a danger in a sense, because a police officer who has to make a critical life or death situation in seconds or milliseconds now has to decide, when they see this orange tip, do I take it literally as an airsoft gun, or for the fact that this person's brandishing it in a dangerous way, do I take them down and don't risk it, right? Because, you know, they're not only trying to protect themselves, they're trying to protect other people around them, and they have to make life-threatening life decisions, right? These are decisions they have to make, you know, really quickly. And I think having an orange tip or an orange gun or a pink gun or whatever you want to call it is just going to give them a much, you know, it's going to take longer for them to decide. Even if it's just 1 second, that might be too late, because those first few shots are mission critical, right? If someone's shooting at you and they put 2 rounds in you, it's going to take you a while to recover and to do anything if you're even still alive. So I'm not a big fan of orange tips in any shape, way, or form. I don't think that they serve a purpose. I think that they are misleading, right? People think, number one, that it's a toy, and you can treat it like a toy and brandish it like a toy and point it around like a toy. It's not a toy. These guns are not toys. Secondly, it is confusing for military, police, whatever it might be. When they see something like this, they now have to decide, what am I going to do in this situation? Because if I shoot somebody and they got an airsoft gun, I'm the bad guy now, right? Because I just shot a kid with an airsoft gun. We've all heard about it, right? Orange tip. But what if that kid is actually using a real gun and is pointing a real gun at them? I think if you're pointing a gun, treating a gun, brandishing a gun like it is a gun in a place where you shouldn't be, and you get taken down by a police officer or military or whatever, then, you know, what were you doing, right? Okay, so I don't want people to freak out and get all angry here in these posts. This is just my opinion, what I think. And, you know, I know the bureaucrats or the people that make these decisions about this type of stuff, they're not trying to make things more difficult for everybody or put people in danger or anything like that. They're just doing what they think is best. I'm just bringing up my points why I think it's maybe not a good idea. And so maybe you guys can all kind of pipe in a little bit and share your ideas, but let's do it all in a nice way. Let's all be civil. We're all, you know, on the same page, I think, at the end of the day. Everybody wants, you know, everybody's safety to be in the best interest at the end of the day. All right, thanks for watching another Replica Airguns video. Don't forget to subscribe. Check me out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Until next time, take care.